So yeah, this is kind of weird, reviewing another YouTuber's work. Alright, fuck it, let's do it. Breaking Lights is brought to us by director Nate H. and stars William Delaney, Tomo Thomas, and Chris Black. So like I mentioned in the intro, this short film is directed by Nate H., aka Mr. H Reviews on YouTube. This is his second short film that he's made, the first one being Black Fields that I reviewed quite some months back on my podcast, the Jarcast Movie Podcast. Check that out somewhere around in here, wherever that shit pops up. Much like that film, this is a crowd-funded, smaller budgeted indie short. And I liked Black Fields. I thought it had a lot of potential, especially as a proof of concept. I thought that it would be a really neat idea to expand upon. I wanted to know more about that world. Sure, it wasn't perfect, it had its issues, and I did detail those in my review of it, but overall, especially being an indie project, I did enjoy it. But now we shift gears from Norse-esque mythology to H.P. Lovecraft's psychological horror. The basic story here, without ruining anything, and no, I'm not going to spoil it, I'm going to try and keep things as vague as possible, is that William Delaney's character is a severely depressed man who has lost his family. And by lost, I mean they left him. They're not dead, or at least I think that's what it said. I'm pretty sure that they're alive and they just left him because, you know, divorce issues and all that stuff. Either way, he's isolated. He doesn't have his family, and that's a big part of this movie is isolation and what it does to people. Now, he picks up drinking and just pretty much lets his life go to shit. Now, one evening, he finds this totem, if you will, of one of the old gods. If you don't know what those are, then look up H.P. Lovecraft and cosmic horror. Anyway, this guy starts to think that this old god is speaking to him. It's working through him. And the story goes from there. Now, the question here is whether this totem or old god is real and actually talking to this guy, or if he's just lost his fucking mind. Or at least that's how I took it. This movie is pretty ambiguous. And if you know anything about H.P. Lovecraft, ambiguity is deeply ingrained in his work. Now, this is a short film. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 20 minutes long, so it's got a whole lot to convey to us, the viewer, in a short amount of time. And the primary way that they do this is through voiceover. We do get things going on screen. We get to see this guy walking around and going through his life, but a great deal of this story is told to us through this narration. Now, overall, this film is actually pretty good. I did enjoy it. It really makes you think. As I mentioned, its story is very ambiguous. It is very deep. There is a lot to take in here, and it will have you thinking after it's done. You almost want to watch it twice, because there's so much going on in this narration that it's just kind of hard to soak it all up in one go. That's not to say that you can't, but upon a second watch, you do pick up a lot more. There's some deep stuff going on in this monologue, and me, myself, personally, what I took from it is this is more about a man whose life has just been broken and the isolation he's experiencing because of that. Not to get too personal for a second, but having gone through a divorce myself at one point in my life, I do kind of understand that. I get that feeling that this character's going through. Maybe the story resonated with me personally a bit more because I did feel that through this character. But I do also think that other people, especially right now, can relate to this man and his feelings in this story due to the worldwide pandemic that's been going on and how isolated we've all been. The guy's going through a pain that he's never felt before, and he's all by himself, and he's just making it worse with alcohol and other things. He's turning to the wrong direction. He feels like he has no one to turn to, but the film does show us he does have people he can turn to, he just doesn't. And that is one of the things that leads me to wonder whether or not the cosmic side of this story, the H.P. Lovecraft side, is really real or just in his head. Now, I don't know. There's stuff in the film that can make it go both ways. Either way, though, what this movie is kind of an examination of this man who is broken and the decline of his mental state. This narration that we hear through a good portion of the film is almost like a stream of consciousness kind of rambling of a man who's kind of losing it. And it's really interesting to hear this as we see him go through life and kind of slowly break down. He's looking for answers that aren't there, so he looks in a direction that he thinks he can get them. Is this story a bit out there and require a good bit of thought? Yes, but that's a good thing. After watching this movie, you're gonna want to talk about it. You're gonna want to talk to somebody about what did you think this was about? What did you think was really going on? And while it's not necessarily a traditional story, it is a really interesting story and it will get people to talking. Now, on the visual front, this is a really good looking film. Nate H's previous film, Black Fields, looked really good as well, especially given the budget, but this one is leaps and bounds above it. This looks really nice. Everything from from just the way that it looks, but also the lighting, the camera work. Everything here is a lot better. You can really see that he's starting to hone his craft, especially in the camera work. There's some really nice camera movement in this film. It's all very creatively done and looks great. So interesting story, gets people to talking, and looks great. So it must be an overall winner. Well, yeah, almost, but there is one problem that I had with the film, and that is the audio. Not what's being said, but how it sounds. Now, I understand that this is a low-budget independent film, and not all the audio is an issue. However, the main bit of audio, the narration, really seems very distant. What's being said was great. I was really digging that, but the way that it sounds like it was filmed too far away from the actor or something. There's a lot of echo and it's really tinny, and I don't think this was a creative decision. I could be wrong, but I don't feel like you would make this decision. And while you do get used to it about halfway through the film, when it first starts and you're hit with that narration, it is a bit disarming, especially compared to how good the movie looks. Everything else here from a technical perspective looks great, and the other sound effects sound pretty good too, but the narration just sounds a little bit off. Now, I hate to bash the movie too much for this because I do get that it is a low budget flick and they didn't have a whole lot of money to work with, but at the end of the day, I'm reviewing this film, and being honest, that's just how I felt. I gotta call him as I see him, or hear him in this case. And what I heard was a bit off. It doesn't ruin the movie or anything, but it does definitely stick out. Overall though, all the other pluses to the film far outweigh that one minus. And much like Black Fields before it, I would like to see this story expanded upon. Now, if they did that, I do think that they would probably have to give us a bit more, obviously. But this is a really interesting concept. The whole idea that this guy whose life has fallen apart and his mind is kind of fracturing, and he's looking everywhere for answers, even to places that they might not be, or who knows, they might be. Guys, at the end of the day, Breaking Lights was a very interesting film. It is not a traditionally made film, but you know what? We're always screaming and yelling that we want something new, we want something fresh, and that's what we got here. It's got a really interesting idea with a great execution. It looks fantastic, and while yes, there are some audio issues that do pull you out a bit at first, you do eventually get used to them. You will absolutely see the love and heart that went into this thing, and especially given how little they had to work with, I think that they did a fantastic job, and Breaking Lights is absolutely worth a buy.
Do it! Do it! Show me the money! Do it! You motherfucker! So, do it!
Now, currently, you can only buy this on Blu-ray over at the website Production H Films, I believe it is. It'll be in the link in the description. But I strongly recommend you go do that and check this flick out. Because yeah, while it is a bit unconventional, it's something different. It's something fresh, and it will get you to thinking. When independent filmmakers get out there and try something new, support them in it. It's not like it costs a lot. It's not gonna break the bank. So check out Breaking Lights one night, and I think you will definitely be intrigued. So there it is, guys, my review of Breaking Lights. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits that go along with that, like these guys. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Argo Navis. If you're looking for some more Lovecraft-inspired films, then there's of course the old Reanimator series with Jeffrey Combs from back in the day. But if you want more things dealing with the Elder Things, then check out the amazing silent short film Call of Cthulhu that came out like 20 years ago. It's really hard to find, but look it up, it's fucking amazing. More recently, there's also the surprisingly good Underwater and the fucking amazing Color Out of Space. This is Crazy Cage at his fucking best, and I love that fucking movie. Best, or at least definitely one of the best fucking movies of 2019. Now go and be with Cthulhu.